station, 3TA.
We have spotted Imperial Walker.
Perhaps the most well-known visual aspect of Star Wars and some of the most popular LEGO Star Wars sets, walkers in Star Wars have captivated us since they were the first appearance all the way back in Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back, over 40 years ago. They've become some of the most well-loved vehicles in Star Wars and have become some of the most produced style of LEGO Star Wars sets. Today, in particular, we'll be looking at the history of the Imperial and Clone Walkers for LEGO Star Wars. We'll start, with the first ones from the Empire. I think it's fitting to start with the Empire. They were the ones that we first saw walkers, and they had the first ones produced just by a tiny bit. So we'll go over the first one ever produced and its entirety, and then we'll go next to next. That being the AT-ST. The first ever AT-ST came out in 2001, being 7127 Imperial AT-ST. A very basic design, definitely would not be something that would held up today, and it had a very big minifigure selection of Chewbacca. That was it. I wish it probably at least came with an Ewok or something different, but that's what they started with way back in 2001. The next AT-ST, again, staying with a similar trend of one minifigure, would be the 2006 AT-ST. In 2007 AT-ST. This was actually my first Imperial set, so it definitely has a nice place in my heart. Again, still a design that was definitely an improvement, still, again, something that wouldn't necessarily hold up to today's standards, very blocky, but definitely improvement over the original AT-ST, and it would be the first set that came with an AT-ST driver. The next AT-ST that would come out would be in the Battle of Endor set. Actually, it would not be a standalone AT-ST. That was in 2009. A slightly smaller design, but definitely very interesting design changes. As the last AT-ST in particular, the last two had been pretty much completely brick built. This one had a lot of Technic pins for the legs, and the head moved more on a Technic basis than just a simple roller. So definitely an interesting upgrade, also not only in design but also aesthetically. I think it looks a lot closer, and this is actually my personal favorite design of the AT-ST. I think it's really cool. I think it's very innovative and something that kind of set the standard for future AT-STs on design, as it were, of newer, innovative ways to create walkers, and truly, I think that it is an underrated AT-ST. The next AT-ST would be a few years. That was 2009. The next one wouldn't be till like 2016, I believe, with the 75153 AT-ST from Rogue One. It was a nice big design, maybe a little big, but not too bad. Really a decent minifigure selection with a new AT-ST driver. That was pretty nice. And Baze Malbus, of course, is a very popular figure from that set, so definitely a solid AT-ST. The last two, one being 75254 AT-ST Raider. This one was just from the Mando Season 1. Really just a color swap with the legs, and then the minifigure selection being from Mando Season 1. Nothing too crazy to write home about there. And then the last AT-ST that we're specifically looking at with the Imperial ones. And today, I should say, we're just looking at mostly like playset and UCS sets. I didn't include like micros or different things like that. I thought that would be a little bit of a big list. Maybe another time we'll probably do like the history of microfighters or small sets like that at some point. So we'll keep that for another list. The last AT-ST we got was in 2022, I believe. No, 2023, I believe. No, 2022, 75322 Hoth AT-ST. Definitely they had the design. If you look especially at Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back, the AT-ST does look slightly different with its few seconds on screen time compared to the AT-STs in Episode 6, Return of the Jedi. So LEGO did a really nice job capturing that slight technical looking change over the AT-STs. It's a bit smaller. I think it fits it better, and it's a really solid design. Some nice minifigures too, such as the Hoth AT-ST driver. Not necessarily canon, cool, but I mean he would be technically canon. We just didn't see him, so he technically isn't in Bricklink technically, but still a very nice figure. Another one nice cool figure is Chewbacca with snow on his fur, so that's pretty cool, and that has been the last AT-ST. Next, we'll head over to the big boy, the one that captures all of our imaginations, the first real big walker that we saw, the AT-AT walker. The first AT-AT came out in 2003, had a decent minifigure selection with Luke Skywalker, two brand new snowtroopers at the time, and an AT-AT driver. Honestly, this one to me doesn't really look too bad for being over 20 years old. I think this is the oldest walker that still looks good to today's standards. Not that it would still it still need improvements. But this one, I feel just a simple look looks like it would need the least improvements pretty much of any of the first of the walkers. Set 2007 would be a first and an only for walkers, period, let alone an AT-AT. It is the only motorized AT-AT and therefore the only motorized walker that LEGO has ever done. It was also a first because it came with the first General Veers. He would be in most of the preceding AT-ATs, but it would be the first AT-AT to come with General Veers. 2010 with 8129 AT-AT. Just slight changes. Obviously, the insides would be drastically changed from the last motorized AT-AT, but the exterior aesthetics were somewhat similar, a little bit of an improvement. This does have the largest minifigure selection of a play scale AT-AT with 8 figures being split like right down the middle with like 2 snowtroopers, an AT-AT driver, General Veers, Luke, Han, C-3PO, and then a Rebel Trooper, so it definitely has the biggest selection of figures. Next, the 2014 AT-AT. This is the one I personally own. I think it's a really solid model. Looks definitely a nice improvement over the 2010 AT-AT. First time we would get a Snowtrooper Commander. We don't really get them too often, so that was pretty cool. And a new updated version for General Veers and an AT-AT driver look very, very nice. By far the best playscale AT-AT would be 75288 AT-AT Walker. Kind of wish I had gotten this one. This has a great minifigure selection. Almost gets there for the most figures, not quite, but gets very close. Really amazing minifigure selection. Very nice to be able to have 2 AT-AT drivers sit side by side like it's supposed to in a playset. AT-AT is incredible. When LEGO goes around to redoing the AT-AT in playset, it is going to be hard to beat the 2020 AT-AT. The best AT-AT has been the newest one. Big surprise, I think, 75313 UCS AT-AT. What more can be said? It is absolutely beautiful. Very nice minifigure lineup for a UCS set, obviously. Very nice that it's minifigure scale. Kind of unexpected. There was a long time we didn't think they could make an AT-AT because it was going to be too heavy, but then they went ahead and did it. So a very impressive set. I believe the most expensive UCS set at the time. I think it's going to be beat this year by the Death Star, but at the time it was the most expensive AT-AT, or most expensive set that LEGO had done. So that gets the Imperial Walkers, the core Imperial Walkers. We had 3 of them. We're going to look at 3 Republic Walkers, and then we'll have just a few honorable mentions that really didn't have enough to fit like in their own category. But I feel like they should have been mentioned, so they'll get mentioned there. So the first ever Clone Walker was in 2003, that being the first AT-TE. It came with 4 Clone Troopers. It has almost been the most amount of Clone Troopers ever put in a LEGO Star Wars set, period, especially a large clone vehicle. It would not be, there would be a later walker that would just barely beat it, but for a long time this had the most clones. It is a bit rough, though, to today's standards. Definitely does not hold up to today like some of the other walkers have at times. 2008 AT-TE would be one of the most iconic AT-TEs of all time. The minifigure lineup was exceptional with like stuff like Captain Rex, Ahsoka, etc. Just an amazing minifigure lineup. Maybe could have used a few more clone troopers, would have been nice, but still very iconic and very legendary clone set just from that era of LEGO Star Wars. So definitely in a lot of, perhaps the favorite of people just because of the nostalgia that it brings, especially if you grew up with the Clone Wars. It's going to be hard to beat on that 2008 AT-TE. The next AT-TE would be the 2013, a really nice design, better structurally inside with the AT-AT, and I think it looks also a lot better aesthetically. Well, definitely captures the look of an AT-TE better than the 2008. It is slightly smaller, but I still think it looks pretty good. The minifigure lineup could have been better. The Jedi are nice for it. The battle droids were good. Nice to get a B1 Geonosis Commander. Definitely something that we don't have. We've never gotten since. But only having a clone commander was kind of disappointing. Would have been nice to see another clone or 2. The final AT-TE would be a decade later in 75337 AT-TE from Utapau, perhaps the best AT-TE, not without its controversy, but an amazing just upgrade over the 2013, about similar scale, but just the detail is so much better. The insides are so much better because they have reconfigured and done a few different things, changed, so you can get a lot more minifigures on the inside, which is super nice. It's a really nice Very beautiful design. Definitely an amazing improvement. The minifigure lineup of itself is really nice, being the largest clone set with this amount of minifigures and just like a play set. Technically, there'd be one that would kind of beat that, but that's a little bit of a special case. But really amazing with 3 212 troopers, finally getting phase 2 Commander Cody, and then a clone gunner. That was kind of unexpected as well. So definitely nice. The thing that kind of the controversy is the helmet holes. Talked about that a lot on the channel, so we won't go into it. But as a whole, still a legendary set and one of the best clone sets of all time, even with the controversy, in my opinion. Next, we'll head over to the little guy, the ATRT. The first ATRT would be 75250 in 2005 with the Clone Scout Walker. A really oversized technical ATRT, but in a very iconic set. This ATRT, though, would start a trend that LEGO still does, that they kind of oversize the ATRTs. Some people really like it, some people don't. Yeah, I'm kind of in the middle. Sometimes I don't mind it. Sometimes I'm like, I do prefer the smaller ones, but I don't necessarily mind the large ones. The next ATRT would be a minifigure scale one inside the 2020 or 2010 turbo tank. Looks really, really nice. And like I said, I like the minifigure scale one, so this is actually my favorite ATRT. The next ATRT would go back to the Jumbo Boys with 75002 501st ATRT. This would be the first set, one of the first sets we got a 501st Trooper, so that was a big deal back in 2013. It had a very interesting minifigures lineup. It was based off Umbara and box art, but it had a Yoda, which wasn't in Umbara, so I mean, it's okay but I would have liked maybe a little bit of a tweaking with the minifigure selection. I think I could have fit Umbara and the season overall better, but nonetheless, that's what LEGO did, was a Clone Wars Yoda, a Droideka Sniper, which would fit the next episodes better, but that wasn't with the box art. But anywho, and then a Commando Droid Captain. So nice minifigure lineup of diversity, but not necessarily applicable to the episodes that we saw. That ATRT and that 501st Trooper would have been maybe nice to get a few of those figures from the material that it was based on. Like, would have been really nice, in my opinion, to get an 501st ARF Trooper plus a 501st Trooper, and then like an Umbaran and something else, but that's beside the point. That's not what we got. Still a decent minifigure lineup, just maybe a little bit out of sorts compared to what they were going off the base material of the source material, I should say. The next ATRT, again, would be in 75151, going back to 2010. The next Turbo Tank would have a minifigure scale ATRT. The color design, it's like a sand green and stuff. Really pretty, nice-looking ATRT. Not my favorite with the stud shooter, but other than that, very nice-looking ATRT. Kind of going along with that, 75261 20th Anniversary Clone Scout Walker. Kind of pays homage to the original Clone Scout Walker in that big scale again, but that newer color scheme that just looks really great. Definitely one I wish I had gotten at this point. I thought I was planning on getting him back in 2019. I put it off, then it retired, and now I kind of wish I'd gotten it and maybe look to get it at some point. The final ATRT we'll talk about is from 75280. This would be the second version of a 501st ATRT in the 501st Battle Pack, one of the most legendary sets of all time. The final big vehicle or big walker we'll look at today is the AT-AP. The first one coming out in 2008 was 7671. The first of its kind. Kind of an interesting minifigure lineup with 2 shock troopers. Not necessarily, just a little bit interesting. Not bad, but just interesting. Decent design. Definitely holds a special place in my heart. This is one of the oldest walkers in my collection, behind that original that 2007 ATST. This is one of the original large vehicles and first big clone set that is in my collection, so definitely holds a little special place in my heart. Definitely doesn't stand up to today. It's decent still, but definitely not to today's standards. 75043 ATAP, what an incredible improvement on pretty much every level, from everything from aesthetics looking so much like more accurate to an ATAP, to stability, the legs, overall increases and how the legs are pinned together with Technic pins and everything. Just an amazing improvement. Minifigure lineup, again, a fantastic improvement. Perhaps one of the and kind of just based on, I know there's so many amazing sets from 2014. Sometimes I don't think this one gets talked about enough between the minifigure lineup and stuff, so I think it's kind of underrated in comparison to other sets that get talked about in 2014. But that's a hard year to beat, getting overrated when there's so many amazing sets from 2014. The final ATAP would be in 2019 with the 75234 ATAP walker. Very similar, just a slightly bit smaller, but the legs are angled to the correct position that an ATAP is. Pretty much tied, in my opinion, with the 2014 in terms of quality. So that is the history of the main walkers of LEGO Star Wars. Some truly amazing and iconic sets, and and some of the most desirable sets that Lego's ever made. The honorable mentions, again, very iconic and desirable sets. First off being the 2010 AT-OT, one of the most legendary clone sets of all time and still highly desirable. Would really love to see Lego redo an AT-OT. Of course, that'd be the AT-OT in dropship, not necessarily needing the dropship. Another one, just an honorable mention, not necessarily a real walker, but a fan, or not a fan one, but a design, the Clone Walker from the Clone Walker Battle Pack, just because of that being such an iconic and big part of the Lego Star Wars community and army building in particular. So I definitely want to give that a special shout out. 75083 AT-DP Walker from Rebels. Really nice design, just didn't know where quite to fit. I guess I probably could have fit it with the AT-STs if I really wanted to, but I thought it deserved its own little spot here in the honorable mentions instead of just trying to be shoehorned in the AT-STs. Rex's ATTE, probably could have put it with the ATTs, but kind of a weird design, but nice little one-off, some nice figures in that. Definitely desirable minifigures to this day. And then the last honorable mention, I think it's a really good design. I think the movie just let it down. The ATM-6, really cool design. I think the Lego did a really good job on it. I think it's a really cool design from the movie, even if the movie itself kind of let down this design. So that is going to do it today, guys. Let me know down below what your favorite Walker design is. Which one you like the best, and then what is your favorite design of that particular Walker? This far, thank you so much for watching. I hope you really enjoyed the video. Stay tuned for more videos like this. Otherwise, I do have many other videos on the history of various other aspects of Lego Star Wars and fun videos. If you're new to the channel, haven't already made it this far, please consider leaving a like and subscribing, and I will catch you guys next time.